This is Crawford Philleo from the record label Planted Tapes, and you're listening to the Literati podcast.
Welcome to the show. This is episode 86 of the Literati Records podcast. I'm your host Marcus, and I want to thank you for tuning in, turning on, and supporting independent music. We have Crawford Philleo on the show today, easily one of the busiest and switched-on guys in the local Denver music scene. He's here today to fill us in on his experimental music cassette label, Planted Tapes. But before we bring on Crawford, let's knock out today's housekeeping. Time is running out for our monthly $100 cash giveaway winner. If your email address begins I burn slower, send us an email from that account to literati@literatirecords.com to claim your prize. Once again, if your email address begins I burn slower, send us an email from that account to literati@literatirecords.com to claim your prize. If you'd like to be entered in our monthly cash giveaway for next month, get over to our website at www.literatirecords.com and fill out the entry form. There are a few rules and guidelines posted as well, so be sure to look those over while you're there. Be sure to connect with us on Facebook and Twitter, as we use these platforms to interact more directly with the independent music community. I also want to remind everyone about the Gold Rush Music Festival going on Friday night and Saturday at the Sidewinder Tavern and Crash 45. This festival is an awesome celebration of truly alternative music, including some electro, ambient, drone, and experimental sounds of all kinds. We are proud to be helping sponsor the festival this year, and want to thank Crawford Philleo for bringing us on board. We'll hear much more about the festival from Crawford on Thursday's show, but today he is here to fill us in on his cassette label, Planted Tapes. Having grown up almost exclusively with cassette tapes, I can honestly say I never thought I'd see their proliferation as a recorded media again. But with the continually changing music industry and more niche musical markets emerging, the cassette makes perfect sense for many artists and labels looking to release limited runs of a title. And Crawford is here to answer my questions and provide more insight into the current rise in visibility of cassette culture. The music on today's show is excerpts from some of the releases in the Planted Tapes catalog. You can find a complete track listing on our website at www.literatirecords.com. Now, here's Crawford Philleo. Well, my guest on the show today is Crawford Philleo from Planted Tapes. We're down here just hanging out at Skylark, enjoying an adult beverage or two. Good to have you on the show, man.
Thank you.
Well, when did the label begin?
Let's see, I did my first tape, I think it was July of last year, 2012. So we're coming up on our 1-year anniversary, I guess.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. And who did you start with?
The first tape that we did was a split, and it was between my friend Val Franz, who makes music as Last Eyes. She's also in a band called Night of Joy, which they just recently played their last show ever, so they're done.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's a bummer. But, I'd seen her play around town, her solo stuff, and I always thought it was really great. And then when we had the idea to start the label, we thought that she would make a really good one to start off with, because she wasn't real well known outside of Denver, and we really loved her music. And also, on the other side of the tape is a fellow named Zach Borger, who lives in Chicago, or a suburb of Chicago, and he makes music as These Wonderful Evils. And I'd gotten his LP in the mail in a box of records from a website I used to write for called Foxy Digitalis, and I just fell in love with it right away. Yeah, they just, unfortunately, Foxy Digitalis just stopped doing posts as of January this year.
Really?
Yeah, and they had to have like about a 9-year run, I think. Yeah. So they've been around for a long time. I'd been a writer for them for about 3 years. And that website just opened me up to a whole new world of music and cassette tape culture in general. So I was kind of getting familiar with tapes and stuff, and I'd gotten These Wonderful Evils record in the mail for review, and I loved it so much I got in touch with the guy who made it, Zach, and it came out on his own label called Sparrows and Wires. And I just approached him. I said, hey, I'm thinking about starting this label, and I want you to be on the first release. And he was kind of receptive to the idea. I showed him Val's music, the Last Eyes stuff, and he thought it was cool. And we got the conversation going from there. And that was a little tougher because I didn't know Zach at all. So with Val, we were friends and stuff. And so she was like, yeah, let's do it. Whatever you want to do. It's a great idea. I'm behind it 100%. But I really had no idea what Zach might say. And I didn't know anything about him, like how old he was or anything like that. So I was really fortunate that he checked out some of my writing that I do and thought that was legit, I guess, enough to, give it a try. Sure. So we did it, and we were really happy with the way it turned out. So, cool. Yeah.
Well, why have cassette labels kind of come back into vogue? It seems like there's so many more springing up lately.
Yeah, and the argument has been, and I've seen this topic written about a lot, and there's a lot of discussion about it, and one of the arguments is that cassettes really never went away to begin with. So they've been around for a long, long time, and it's always been a really cheap way to produce tapes, or to produce records. And I think a lot of labels that were doing like vinyl and stuff are now turning to cassette tapes because those labels have been the cassette labels have been getting a little bit more exposure lately. I think that's probably pretty true.
And that's probably it. It's probably just they're getting more exposure as opposed to like coming back. Maybe.
Yeah. And I think that there are websites now like Foxy Digitalis and Tiny Mixtapes is one that I write for, and I also do a little bit of writing for Decoder Magazine. And then there's other ones like Ad Hoc, and there's smaller ones too, like Forest Gospel and Anti-Gravity Bunny, and there's a lot that kind of are supporting this tape culture because the artists that are putting out records on them aren't getting any press anywhere else, and so it's a convenient method for them to be releasing stuff on the cheap, and the websites are already into that kind of music, so they're just eating it up and spitting it back out to their readership. So I think there's kind of like a perfect storm and a real good synergy between the people producing the tapes and the people who are receiving them and writing about them.
Well, is it kind of a particular musical genre that's enjoying this resurgence?
That's been kind of an interesting thing too, because when I first got into it, it seemed like it was mostly noise and drone and ambient music, which admittedly is kind of a lot of the music that I've done so far with the Planet Tapes label. But as I've been getting more and more tapes for review, where in my own writings and stuff, I've noticed the diversity has like gone way up. So I've gotten black metal tapes for review recently and like basic rock and roll stuff. There's really just no limit to what you can do on a cassette tape. We just put the Vitamins album out on cassette, and yes,
cool.
And like I think 3 years ago, if you'd have asked us if we would have considered doing a tape release, we would have said you were crazy. So then we went and did a 7-inch, and it cost us like $2,000, and like took us 3 years to sell them. And then, you know, we went and did this tape, and it cost us like a fraction of that. And I've already moved through about half of them in about a month. So,
nice.
You know, it's kind of easier to get through them, and it seems like people are listening to them, and I don't know, it's fun. It's also, they're kind of a cool, like, it's a cool little artifact that you can have, and they're really easy to trade with other people.
Sure.
So other labels that are doing tapes, you know, if they can't afford to buy one, well, then you can strike a deal and trade with their label's tapes, and that's fun to do too. So,
well, is there an advantage to the cassettes over other media? Because it seems like actually CDs would be even cheaper.
I think CDs are maybe only slightly cheaper, and you have to do more of them to get them.
Probably in bulk.
Yes.
Is where
so
you're
doing like you're doing
yeah.
like 500 or something, and you get the price break. So it'd be like 500 CDs might cost the same as about 250 tapes, but it's kind of a lot of waste. Unless you're like a really awesome band, like, and you're able to. I mean, I don't mean to put it that way, but you know, some bands can move 500 CDs,
sure.
but the bands that I work with and the bands that I know around town have a hard time moving that many units, you know, on their own without any kind of real distribution and stuff.
And maybe there's the big advantage is it's easier to do smaller run cassettes, whereas you'd have to do larger run CDs.
Yep, and you can, you know, with a small run like that, you can manage your own distribution fairly easily, and you don't really need a PR firm to sell your tape for you to move that many copies. So I just prefer to do it those smaller runs, because another big thing is that the people who do buy your tape are going to be listening to it. Right. There's more of a chance that you're going to get it into the hands of someone who really cares. You know, if you buy 500 CDs and you end up selling 10 of them to a certain record store, you don't really know how far that'll go or who it'll go to. So I think the tape has a way for you to kind of connect more directly to your fans in a way.
Is it easier maybe to start doing your own manufacturing and dubbing as opposed to going through like a CD manufacturer, or is there still quite a...
Well, there are tape manufacturing places you can go to. I've chosen not to do that so far, mainly because of timing. It's a lot faster to buy blank tapes and dub them yourself.
Sure.
You need to have... There's a couple of different ways you can do it. I know some tape labels that they like daisy chain several regular single cassette players. They just connect them in line with one another, and they can do like 4 or 5 duplicates at once, but they have to dupe them in real time, so it takes a long time.
Right.
So I've been fortunate enough to have a friend, my buddy Joey, who has a high-speed tape duplicator, and we can do about 100 tapes in an afternoon.
That's cool.
Yeah, the longest thing to do is to dub the master. So you have to do that in real time and make sure it sounds good. And then once you get that, you know, you put them in. You have one unit that takes the master plus 3, and then you have the slave unit that has 4. So you do 7 tapes at once, and you click go on that thing, and it does both sides simultaneously. It takes about 30 seconds.
Wow.
So it's pretty quick.
That's cool.
Yeah. But then there's also like the artwork and packaging stuff, and that takes time and thought, you know.
Can you handle most of that in-house, or
Yeah.
do you farm that out?
I work at a printing shop, so that's helpful.
Good perk.
It's a good perk. But, you know, mainly to save money at my printing shop, it can still be expensive to run color prints like that. So what I'll generally do is gang them up on a sheet, run out just a minimal amount of sheets, and then I'll hand score them, which takes a long time. And sometimes, depending on if I can get access to a fast cutter, I may have to hand cut them as well, which takes a lot of time.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's inserting, and you have to do the tape labels. Like for the original Flowering Earth former Selves split, we did this. I got these vinyl letters printed from a place called Studio 52, and I know the people there, and they're super nice. And they were about $1 a tape to do that. And but it took a while to hand transfer the vinyl. But it's kind of like you sit at home with some friends and you have some beers and
have a DIY party.
Listen to the tape, and it's like making a little arts and crafts project, and it's fun. And,
little personal touch to it.
Exactly, and then when you're all done with it, you're just like, wow, look what I made. It's so cool. So
that's wicked. And artwork. I mean, it's too bad people listening can't see it, but these tapes are really well done. They look really nice.
Thanks. I did the art. I took this photo here for the Last Size These Wonderful Evils split, which is all guitar music. This is a picture. I think I took it in the park in San Francisco. My old neighbor Bethany is a photographer, and she took the photo on the Lake Mary tape. And Chaz, who's Lake Mary, actually sent in this picture of the lake for an interview I did with him, because on the Planet Tapes blog, I've been trying to do interviews with all the artists to give folks like sort of an idea of who they're dealing with.
Yeah.
And so he sent me this picture because I asked him, where is the Lake Mary? He sent me a picture of Lake Mary, and he didn't expect it, but I put it on the tape, and I think it turned out really pretty. Looks cool.
Definitely.
And then the latest, the split tape with Former Selves and the original Flowering Earth, our work was done by my friend Sarah Michaels. So she did some collage plus ink drawing.
How many releases have you done so far?
The Planet Tapes catalog has 3 tapes in it so far. And then on top of that, I've done tapes independently of the label because I've kind of sort of carved out a look for the label with the inside of the J cards. I've got this the Planet logo here. Right. I've been using the same fonts and kind of doing it this way. So the stuff outside of that, I did we dubbed the Vitamins recent tape, which I'm the drummer of that band. So that's not an official Planet tape, but I'm distributing it through my website. So it's kind of still sort of a Planet tape. And then the other one was this Gold Rush companion tape.
Now, do you accept demo submissions or just handpick artists you want to work with?
Generally, the policy has been that we sort of handpick who we work with. We have gotten some pretty cool demo submissions, though, that have turned into, deeper conversations. And if nothing else, if they have something really cool, I'll write about it in my, music writing or something, or maybe talk about doing something in the future.
Now, one exciting thing I think I read on your website is that you actually sold out of your first release. Is that correct?
We sold out of the first 2.
The first 2?
Lake Mary is gone, and the Last Size in These Wonderful Evils split is totally gone.
Any plans for reprints?
No, there haven't been any.
Gotta get them when you can.
That's kind of the other cool thing about the tape label is and how it's kind of easier to move them is sort of the exclusivity of it. And everything we do has been made available digital. And people that buy the tape online, I send them a digital download for free, as soon as they buy it. Because not everybody has a Walkman.
Sure.
A lot of people like to buy the tape and have it, but then they don't necessarily listen to it on tape. There's so much cool stuff happening on cassette right now, and it's really it's bigger than I thought even.
Well, where can people purchase the music of Planet Tapes artists? Just on your website?
Planet Tapes is exclusively distributed through the blog, but not exclusively, because I also have developed some relationships with some distributors. One of them is called Tomentosa, and I believe they're based in Asheville, North Carolina.
Asheville, North Carolina, sounds right. Yep.
And that guy Josh, really nice. He took an interest real early on, and I send him 5 tapes, and he'll send me a check. It's great. So you can buy them from his distribution. Although I don't think he got the last tape, so I need to get in touch with him about the Planet Tapes number 3, and then also I think he might be interested in the Vitamins tape too. So
very cool.
I'll see about that.
And what is your website?
It's planettapes.blogspot.com.
Well, Crawford, I want to thank you for sitting down with us and filling us in on everything going on over at your label, Planet Tapes.
Yeah, no problem.
It's very, very fascinating, and I encourage everybody to get by your website. Listen to some of the samples. There's a lot of beautiful music over there, and some stuff that you might not find anywhere else.
I wanted to go back to that question you asked earlier about where you can get the tape.
Oh, okay.
Because I actually did locally distribute it too. Like there were a few copies at Wax Trax Records.
Okay.
There were some at Mutiny Now Records, which is up here on Broadway. It's a newer sort of a place. And then also Ironwood Collection, which is also here on South Broadway. And that's a really beautiful little store. And I wanted to point out Ironwood in particular because last time I went there, they had a little display of tapes. And there are other labels in Denver that are doing the same thing. So cassette culture does not begin and end with Planet Tapes by any means. In fact, I was inspired initially by a friend, Ryan McRyhue, who runs Laser Palace. Ryan moved out to Chicago, but he's moving back to Denver this fall. And he still runs Laser Palace. It's an excellent tape label. Tiny Amp is one that I know of. And there are a couple others that the names escape me.
Well, who knows? Denver may become the hub of a whole slew of cassette labels.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I'd love that.
Very cool. Well, thanks for sitting down with us. I know you're super busy, and I'll let you get back to running your label.
Cool, man. Thank you.
You got it.